Hey guys, Matteo here. Welcome back to a new video, and today I want to talk to you about the new Blackmagic PYXIS, and I want to focus mainly on the sensor and on the image quality of this camera. Now, before people saying you don't even have a PYXIS, I just wanted to remind everybody that the PYXIS use the exact same sensor of the Blackmagic 6K full frame that was released or announced more than a year ago. This is not Matteo saying this, but is the CEO of Blackmagic. But most importantly, guys, I just want to give you an opinion as a real cinematographer that does real work. But first of all, let me point out that I'm happy to finally see people on YouTube and online giving Blackmagic credit when it comes to footage and to image quality. Now, on the other side, it's also a little bit strange because I remember when the Blackmagic 6K full frame came out last year, and I just want to mention you guys some of the comments under those videos shot with the same sensor of the new Blackmagic PYXIS. It's a 4 years old sensor. What's so special about it? The rolling shutter is terrible. You can't even use this camera handle. It's impossible. No internal ND, unacceptable. Can't even shoot 4K 120p. Only 13 stops of dynamic range. Crazy noisy in low light, a lot of flickering, unusable. No ProRes, no thank you. B-RAW is not even real RAW. But I'm glad that people are finally realizing that this is not just a capable camera, of course, but it's a capable sensor. Now, before I jump into this video, guys, just a disclaimer. I'm not sponsored by Blackmagic. I'm not being paid by Blackmagic. I'm able to express my honest opinion. So the reason why I didn't ask for a PYXIS is because, as you can see, I have the 6K full frame right here, which is the exact same sensor of the PYXIS. And of course, I have my beast, my Ursa Mini Pro 12K OLPF. With that out of the way, guys, let's just talk a little bit about the PYXIS sensor. First of all, very first thing, the only reason why I was even interested in the Blackmagic 6K full frame is, believe it or not, it's full frame camera. Now, am I a super fan of the full frame look? Oh, S35 is crap. No. The only reason why I wanted a 6K full frame is because my favorite lens is the Leica R35mm. And the Leica R35mm on a Pocket 6K, he would have a 1.56 crop, which is quite a lot. Just to give you an idea, the Ursa Mini Pro 12K, but even the previous one, crop factor is only 1.3. That's the thing that I was most excited about when the 6K full frame came out. This sensor can shoot 6K full frame open gate, B-RAW, so it's internal RAW, which is something that I don't think anybody on the market, any camera manufacturer can give you for this price. Now, the frame rate, what can this camera do? So this camera can shoot 6K open gate up to 36 frames per second. It can shoot 6K DCI up to 48 frames per second, and it can shoot 6K 241 up to 60 frames per second. Another thing you can do with this sensor, you have a S35 mode that shoots 4:3, and that can go up to 50 frames per second. Talking about the crop factor on the S35 mode, it's a little bit less than the original Pocket. Almost forgot about it, but yes, this camera in open gate shoot 3:2. So this is the perfect camera for social media content. Why? Because shooting 3:2 is not gonna get a crazy crop when you wanna deliver in vertical, it's just gonna crop slightly. This is just an advice, guys, if you're doing social media work. You never know what the client is gonna ask you in the future. Even just a personal short, guys, if you shoot vertical, all that footage is not usable. So highly recommend to always shoot horizontal and then crop. Talking about the color science is the typical, usual, beautiful, and now I give it for granted, but guys, Blackmagic is one of the best color science out there. Probably one of the closest thing to RA, especially on the Ursa Mini Pro 12K. All I do is, of course, I expose properly, but then with just the battery last, natural Rec 709, some adjustment in the contrast, the image is just there. There's no work whatsoever. The footage is just beautiful. The skin tones are great. You don't have to modify much except for the white balance. Now, dynamic range. A lot of people comment on my video last year saying, oh, 13 stops is nothing. In 2024 is a joke. 13 stops is a lot. And this is not like a claim dynamic range, like Sony claiming 16 stops. These are true 13 stops of dynamic range, plus the B-RAW codec. Altogether, they give you an amazing flexibility. The Alexa Classic has 14 stops of dynamic range, and that was one of the best camera in the world. Now, this is not necessarily the sensor, but I want to spend a couple of words here. The L mount. A lot of people buying a PYXIS now, they're texting me, asking me, I have all EF lenses. I think I should have the PYXIS EF. What I say to people is get the L mount. Even if you have EF lenses, you can just adapt it with just these super cheap adapters, like $20. The advantage of the L mount compared to the EF is that you're gonna be able to adapt virtually any lenses, from PL to old vintage, to Nikon, to EF, of course, to anything you want. Last but not least, guys, this camera has the capabilities to record gyro information for stabilizing the footage, and trust me, this works much better than any IBs that I tested on any other camera. Overall, guys, this is a fantastic sensor. Now let's talk the bad or the cons of this sensor. It's not perfect and there's quite a lot of limitations. First of all, you have to remember that this sensor was originally designed for the Blackmagic 6K full frame, so kind of like a pocket body, which I think even Blackmagic doesn't intend this camera to be like a full production camera, kind of like the Ursa Mini Pro 12K. It was born more like run and gun, B cam. You have to squeeze on the bus, you have to do some tricky shot that you can't do with a big camera. The point I want to make is when you check the prices of this camera and when you think about why this sensor was originally designed for, it is normal to have this sort of limitation that I'm going to talk about. Now, what is one of the limitations of this sensor that personally is something that shooting a lot of food and beverage, I miss a little bit about the Ursa Mini Pro 12K? Well, it's definitely higher frame rates. So I wish I would have a beautiful and clean 4K 120p. The 120p out of this camera in 8K, the quality of the footage, it looks exactly like if you're shooting 24p. Again, working with food and wine, the plate that goes into the table, the decoration of the plate, the wine being poured, the glass of wine turning, these are all very important things. So this is unfortunately a limitation of this sensor. The readout speed is low. Yes, this is another limitation. If you're shooting a lot of sports, like I said before, it can be a problem. For me, it's not a big deal, but yeah, if I have to shoot only cars, commercial, sport, probably not gonna be the camera for that kind of shoot. And I wanna remind everybody that nobody really complains about the kind of the same readout speed on a $30,000 Sony Burano. And here I'm not trying to justify anything. I mean, it is what it is. Yes, the readout is low. Is low also another more expensive camera. You don't want any rolling shutter at all, then get an Ursa Mini Pro 12K. Virtually zero rolling shutter when filming in 8K. Another limitation for some people, not for me. PYXIS and the 6K full frame, they don't shoot ProRes and they don't shoot H.264. They do generate automatic proxies that can be used for editing, but they can't be used for delivering. So in my opinion, quality comes first all the time. And to be honest, B-RAW is an extremely efficient codec. Even if you shoot 12:1 B-RAW, that file is gonna be lighter than anything you shoot in ProRes HQ. The beautiful dynamic range, the beautiful color sign, the beautiful color depth, that's gonna take some space on your drives and on your cards. Now, probably one of the biggest limitations of this camera that compared to the original Pocket was a big step down, the noise level, especially on the second ISO. A 400 is clean. I almost never go to 800. You can do your test, but 400 is where the noise is the best. Once you switch to 1250, where the original Pocket 6K was very clean, this one, it's clean, it's usable, but there is a little bit more noise. After the 1250, if you start going 2000, 2500, up until 3200, which is considered the native ISO on this camera by Blackmagic, I have to be completely honest with you guys, 3200 in my opinion is unusable. If there is a lot of light, maybe you can get away with some noise reduction, but I did some tests and at 3200 the noise compared to the original Pocket 6K is quite bad. And this goes to prove that full frame doesn't necessarily mean cleaner image in low light. So if you're shooting a lot of low light with the PYXIS, you're gonna have a little bit of a trouble. Talking about the original Pocket 6K, in all honesty, guy, and this is something that I started to realize after a while that I was shooting with this camera, and mainly after checking out my old footage shot on the Pocket 6K. As much as I like this for the full frame, I think this sensor missed a little bit of the magic that I found in the original Pocket 6K. Maybe it was the noise level, maybe it was the texture, maybe it was more organic. I don't know what it was. In conclusion, guys, the PYXIS sensor is fantastic. You're gonna be incredibly happy, especially if you never own a Blackmagic, not only because of the image quality, but also because of the firmware, how you navigate the menu, the settings. Of course, guys, it depends on your situation. Again, if you have an Ursa Mini Pro 12K or a G2, whatever, I don't think you're gonna need a PYXIS. I think a Blackmagic 6K full frame can have way more sense. If you're entering Blackmagic or your main camera was a Pocket 6K and you want to do an upgrade and get a kind of a full production camera, talking about of course the body, not necessarily the sensor, then the PYXIS is a really great option. Keep in mind there are the limitation on the sensor that I just told you. I think on the paper, even if the PYXIS body can be on pair with an Ursa or an Alexa or any other cinema camera, the sensor unfortunately is still a little bit limited. Not only in terms of specs, yeah, this camera can do 12K, 8K, 4K, no crop, 12K 75p, 8K 120p, 4K 200 something, internal ND, full XLR, but this is the first Blackmagic in-house sensor, and oh boy, this is still the king in my opinion. This is the best camera that Blackmagic ever made. There is something inside the sensor that I can't describe. It's just pure magic. The image quality of the Ursa is not even comparable in my opinion. The shadows are deep, the contrast is like kind of like punchy, how the subject moves inside the sensor, everything combined, this 12K sensor to me is pure magic. So if you want the best in terms of specs and image quality, then the Ursa is gonna be your choice. If you are okay with having this sensor, which is still fantastic, then you're totally fine with the PYXIS. At the end of the day, guys, my hope for Blackmagic is that they're gonna keep going developing the PYXIS. My hope is that they're gonna put maybe an in-house sensor inside the PYXIS sometimes in the future. Maybe a limited version, maybe an 8K that can shoot up to 50p, but at least can shoot 8K, 4K no crop, and maybe 4K no crop in 120 frames per second. To be honest, I don't even care if it's full frame as long as he has a 1.2, 1.3 crop. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what Blackmagic has planned, but I'm glad they developed that kind of body design, so people that didn't like the Ursa or the 6K full frame can just enter the beautiful Blackmagic-Ware and appreciate also the image quality. All right, guys, I hope you liked this video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what camera are you getting. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.